should. So I have to close that. So, there you go. Yeah, don't pay attention to the mess and stuff. That's your chair there. That's all you get.
I just put on the maps on the iPhone. It thinks you live like a mile and a half from here. I actually had to look at the map.
I don't know why. I looked it up on my iPod thingy, right? And it says everything's okay, but everybody else says it doesn't work.
No, it's the NSA.
I can see. I think it's.
I'm gonna try one of these.
Yeah, they're good. They're cheaper. I mean, you should have bought cigarettes in, down south, right? I mean, you would have saved $3 a pack.
They're cheaper than Hawaii anyway. But
cheap enough.
I'm 33 miles away at my hotel, and there's no cigarettes on the way. Just I figured there'd be.
33 miles away? Is that far? Yeah, it's a long way.
No, because it's like $300 a night and $400 a night up here. I never passed so many mansions.
Yeah.
Is this an ashtray?
Yeah, it is.
Why didn't Naomi and that dude mention that on their video log up here?
Well, they were coming from New York, so
I see.
I guess, it's all relative, right?
Cool, so here I am in New Jersey.
Yeah, you made it.
I wasn't going to film at all. You're Mr. Filmer.
Yeah, I even have it, even got the YouTube
It's
thing
not
there,
for a...
But we'll see, see how it turns out.
It's not for a court case. What do you mean? We're on a YouTube channel?
Well, I mean, it's the automatic upload. It's running. So, who knows if that'll work, crash or do something.
Seriously, though, I passed, because I'm in, not Somerville. We tried to go there. They wouldn't let the dog go. We're at the Somerset Hill place. Somerset Hill is the name of the town, yeah.
Yeah, okay, well, there's a place called, I know Somerville. Well, I know the prison's in Somerville.
We went to Somerville, but no, we had to go to some place. It's not Wallace, it's something with a W.
I don't pay any attention.
There's all kinds of towns over here.
I live in New Jersey, but I don't pay any attention.
There's all kinds of towns all over here. Look,
Yeah,
I've seen some of these paintings online before.
It's got more municipalities than any state, I think. More independent corporations.
I finally found the Kings. So
they're good, right? Almost.
Yeah, they're great.
Good.
It says slow burning. They don't put on them anymore what's the regular and what's light.
Yeah, well,
it's not legal.
Yeah, well, the light didn't mean anything anyway,
Well, that's why it's not legal to say it's light.
Yeah, it's just holes in the filter.
Yeah, but that changes it. Like I used to buy the lights of the cigarettes I get, and then you rip off the filter, and it's the same, sure, but the filter matters.
But you're still just wasting. You're still wasting your money. So.
Did you ever roll your own? Because it's the same thing. I ended up buying filters when I did that. Filters are good.
Yeah, well, the roll your own just seems like too much trouble, and you get a loosely packed cigarette that burns faster, and so. I mean, from my perspective, I just didn't find it very.
It's a pain in the ass. That's what I think.
Yeah.
But still, you need filters. Cool. You do a lot of painting. Looks like.
I really don't.
That's that other one you did. That's from the Das Boot.
Oh yeah, the Das Boot one.
Sweet. Oh, that looks great.
Half done, or quarter done, or 10th done, or whatever it is. Never finished.
Really? Looks finished to me.
Well, close.
My mom's an artist. She said none of her stuff is finished. I have paintings of hers, none of them are signed. Look, you got cameras all over?
Yeah, well, I forgot to put the button in.
This is like this high tech, man. Look, there's just cameras all over.
Yeah, there's a camera for you there. A gift kind of thing.
Cool? Really? What is this?
A little flip camera. So if you turn it on over there, it says on it that it's got a bad battery. But switch is over there, I think. No, you got it right. Okay, yeah, hit that thing. And then all you do is record once it comes on.
Oh, it's not coming on.
Well, use your finger now.
No, it's not coming on. It needs to be charged.
You broke it.
I remember.
I just put batteries in it.
Well, I'm not that great with cameras.
Oh, I'm not too good with it either.
Oh, my phone and my cigarettes are in the car.
Oh, it's fucked up. Alright. The shitty battery. That'll be the excuse.
I love the East Coast. I don't know what I was thinking about California. Hawaii, oh my God.
Well, it'll wear off. You'll figure out.
Well, this neighborhood I don't like.
Yeah.
What the hell, man?
I do my batteries, yeah.
I thought New Jersey was supposed to be working class. This is ridiculous.
Well, it is, but
I pulled into the gas station finally, which doesn't sell cigarettes, and there's nothing but BMWs and Porsches.
well, it's an Audi dealership, right?
Yeah, no problem finding. I could have found the Montessori school or the Audi dealership, but finding a gas station, forget it.
It's working now. Maybe you need to.
Okay.
You wouldn't have to take the batteries out.
What kind of battery? You put regular batteries in
That's
it?
why I'm giving it to you, so you can't fuck it up.
Cool.
And then you just press the red button in the back and it records HD. It's pretty good. So anyway, it says a little message on it, that the battery, that there's some sort of power thingy.
Yeah.
But you ignore that. It's not. It doesn't record it on the image. So the image is clean, even though it says that in the window.
Right.
So even when you play it back, it's going to say that, but it's not really on the image.
Do you still collect these things?
I'm not supposed to be collecting them. I'm supposed to sell them. I'm supposed to
Same
fix them
thing.
and sell them.
Did that ever work out?
Well, it doesn't really work out. It
Yeah.
works out to like $2 an hour. So not a great point. So I have other plans.
I have plans too. I got no
also
job.
not work out. So these are laser pointers. So it's one for your lovely wife and the kid and the dog and you.
Well, that's great.
Just have to remember to put
Well,
the
great.
batteries.
I'm glad I brought 3 packs of cigarettes.
Everything I have is retarded, so you have to put the batteries actually go in like, it's unintuitive. The batteries, it takes those AAA batteries,
Yeah.
you put them in backwards.
Okay.
So the positive end sticks out. Like you think flashlights always go in
Yes.
positive end first, but they go in backwards.
Okay, good to know. Still
Oh
a
yeah, now
wrapper.
you can have one of these things. It's an art piece. You can
And you're showing a movie over there?
So you can pick one of these. You can have one of these.
Oop, hey dude.
Hey, dude,
The
on a
camera.
It's a flip. I'm gonna collect the inside. You didn't click on it right the first
I did
place.
too.
Yeah, it has a lock on the bottom.
Oh, yeah, I didn't lock it.
Yeah.
What do you mean artwork? Did you do these?
Yeah.
Cool.
And that one. Here it's a Puro kind of
It's
thing.
like, yeah, totally. Look, I got Indian jewelry right here from New Mexico. Cool.
Yeah, it'll be worth billions someday.
Yeah, I'm gonna sell it on I forget the name of that auction house. They need to have a website. You got movies going? You like multimedia input?
Yeah, I've sort of gotten used to it. Well, I bought I got a bunch of those things broken. These digital frames, So I fixed, quite a few of them. And,
I see.
They run really green, you know what I mean? It's only 20 watts to run those things, So you can just run movies on
I
it.
thought you meant they had a lot of green in the color, but it was fine.
Yeah. They're good on energy. So, so I've sort of got hooked on it because you just, when you're thinking or something, you can just get distracted for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then go back to what you're doing.
I've always done that. Watch stuff when I'm working.
Yeah.
Though lately I started turning it off just because I'm trying to focus, like this code that I've been writing. It's like sometimes I'm looking to go back to just music, but actually I always want to have some stream. It's like it distracts a part of your mind that isn't going to help with other things you're doing anyway.
Yeah, I just find that, I'm better at the visual thing. Audio is really bad for me, so I can't play music or something because that always...
Too distracting.
Yeah, it's just, I can't multitask, because I always try to make words out of something.
You look just like on camera.
Yeah, you almost do. You're taller.
No, I got a haircut.
Taller.
I'm going to look a little more straight cut. I'm going to try to get work and stuff,
Yeah, that's going to help. Yeah.
It won't. It should have nothing to do with it. When I was in my 20s, my uncles were like, you'll ever get a job with that long hair? And so I was going to cut my hair and go get, and dress up for a job. And I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to work anywhere that won't have me with long hair. It was the best decision, too.
Yeah, well, I always said that, you sort of had to negotiate. I was always in the service industry, so people were always big on, appearances. And in the restaurants, it was really a thing for a man to have long hair. The waitresses could have long hair. So now, the waiters couldn't.
Even up here. Not liberal enough.
Yeah.
Because I just came up from the South, and I definitely feel a little bit more at home up here. Not here particular, because seriously, I've been to some really wealthy neighborhoods, but I'm from Somerville, I did. I drove to Somerville and came up from Somerville, whatever this little town is, and it was just mansion after mansion for 10 miles.
Yeah, well, it's a...
I've seen places like that in California, but California is basically a wasteland compared to here.
It's in the top 10 of the richest counties.
You said that before.
And 3 of the richest counties, I think, are in this, like Warren, Morris, and, whatever the other one is. But,
Morristown over there.
There's a lot of money.
So.
A lot of asshole money. It's not like...
It's from New York, I assume. People come up here for the country or something.
Well, and I think they just want to be close to their stock portfolios or something. It's a lot of inheritance money.
Oh yeah.
A lot of the rich I hate. You know what I mean?
Right. So they moved up here in the country like 75 years ago, probably, or something.
Yeah, it's all family money, and so they're just staying connected to Long Island, the rest of the places where they originally got their money. They're East Coasters, but they're not.
It's interesting. Well, Maine shouldn't be not too wealthy, definitely.
Yeah, Maine's just...
Seems nice, though. The whole place is very interesting, even the south part of the East Coast. Because in California, I never really realized, but they grow you up, you look down on Southern California, which that does make sense, that part. And also the East Coast, I never thought I'd move to the East Coast, but it's cool. There's trains, there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, well, I think the thing is too, is you can find anything. You know what I'm saying? You can find people that are really, culturally, you can find anything.
I would think so.
There's cities here that are
just an hour or two away.
All the signs are Japanese. It's like you have all this kind of heritage stuff too. So you can find almost anything. You can always, you just look around to find a place that's.
It's weird too is toll roads though. We hit a shitload of toll roads coming up here, which I'm not used to.
Yeah.
In Texas, they just say pay by mail. That's all they say. It's toll road, pay by mail, and then there's like red light cameras or something. So I assume they're going to send us a bill, which that's news to me. But I've been in islands for 10 years, and it really is like another country. So there's like the mall stores that sprout up. There's whole new ones, not to mention that over here they're all different ones, but like there's whole new ones. Plus there's casinos. When I left, it was like Nevada, and you heard about Atlantic City having it, and that's it. Now there's a casino every 50 miles because of the Indian reservations. And then in Mississippi and states like that, I guess they just have gambling now.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it's
totally like coming back.
A step down, but, whatever.
I like gambling, but I always agreed with the, limited, because it's sort of, like, do it in Nevada where there really was not much they didn't ruin anything else, that's why it even exists.
Well, you can always see it if you look for it, you go there on the weekdays, you can see these, housewives, spending their welfare checks.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it was a good thing. Then we drove across Texas and New Mexico, and it's very poverty business, like payday loans, church, liquor store. Payday loans, church, liquor store. It was really interesting, this whole trip going across the South like that.
Well, it surprises you that you start really looking at it, the country functions.
Come on here. Can I borrow yours? Yeah, no, I might steal your lighter, so watch out there for that. Oh, let me light this cellophane over.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
So, yeah, well, what else? What did you talk to Chris when she was here?
Well,
You didn't film her the whole time.
Yeah, well, I didn't film the part where I was rubbing her ass and all that kind of stuff. We'll save that for later.
No, we're not doing that part.
Oh, come on. What a wasted trip.
So you're really actually very open-minded. You just like, yeah, come on by.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
Good.
I mean, I can tolerate people for an hour or two. I just can't live with them.
Yeah, understandable.
But yeah, I don't. Everybody's always late.
Well, you're in the middle of the boondocks up here. What is this? This is like the wealthy boondocks.
It didn't seem like the agenda was that difficult. Just saying.
I didn't leave in quite a half an hour. I waited a little bit of time, but mostly there was
when this town,
the one freeway took like a half an hour.
Once the schools get out, you're fucked here. So that like to have
That's
a,
true too. I followed a lot of school buses, but then I went these country roads past all of these mansions, and then I was almost here when you called, and I'm looking for your place, and then I had drove down to Manhattan again before they'll let you turn around.
Yeah, well, you were.
I haven't driven in the snow in a long time either, but I'm good in it. But still, I'm being careful. I'm not gonna.
Well, you have to watch your trip up and all that kind of stuff. Just 'cause, it's still cold. Everything ice is over at night. So you gotta.
I know. Hopefully, it's gonna get warmer. We're gonna go all the way up there tomorrow in one day. So.
Yeah, well, I did that trip a couple dozen times. Every year we go up there. So. Nice trip actually.
You guys would go up there in the summer.
Yeah. So
where'd you go?
Well, we were going to New Brunswick, Canada, so we also went to St. John, so we drive right through Maine and stuff. You have to go like Magnetic Mountain. That's the name.
Magnetic Mountain. That's one of those spots.
It's one of these little gimmicky places where all the trees grew sideways, which was an earthquake. So, well, it probably doesn't work anymore. It's right. The trees are probably straight up by now. Well, anyway, they had an earthquake, so all the trees looked crooked.
Yeah, interesting.
So you put the car in neutral, and the car would roll down the road.
Yeah.
And so you had the illusion you were going.
Oh, they have
straight.
those in California, but they just build a house on an angle, and you're supposed to go inside the house.
You had the sensation like you're on a flat road, but you're actually on a hill, so the car would start picking up speed.
There's a weird place like that in Hawaii that I don't really know why it has that feeling, but it feels level, and you end up rolling along, and it goes uphill a little bit.
Yeah, it's just those funny little tourist places, they make a $1 a day, they charge you $1 to haul your car down the road.
Well, but there's a scam one in California where, out by the Avenue of the Giants, where they've just built a house, built it at an angle on purpose, so you go inside it and take pictures, and the water is going the wrong way and stuff like that. And it's a big scam, and nobody tells you. It's like a Mark Twain thing where nobody tells you what the scam is. They go, hey, there's this really great place, and then you finally go there when you're 19, you're like, oh.
Yeah, it's getting like that. I was disappointed when we went to Redwood Forest, and one of those famous trees you drive through, the tree actually had fallen down.
There's still some of those
and
there.
You always take the picture, like the tree hadn't fallen down, so you just drive it under a stump. Oh yeah, we drove through the stump.
Yeah, they still have some you can drive through up in Yosemite. Old ones, because they don't believe in doing that anymore. I drove through one. But, yeah. We didn't go on that route where there were many of those tourist traps on the way here, man. It was just like, most of it, I did a bunch of 12-hour drives just because there was no reason to stop. It didn't seem like in Texas and stuff.
Yeah, we made good time and all that, so that's good. But, we don't want to do that shit.
We went to Betsy Ross's house today.
Is it closed?
Yeah, we didn't even try to go in. We just took a picture. It was on the way to Philadelphia. We figured another state, we had a chance. And we went to, pretty much, everything seems like it's been closed. We, what was the other place we did? There was Betsy Ross. Oh, we tried to go to the White House last night on the way to Baltimore, which we did do, but they kicked us out. We got right in front of the White House. And I'm like, why? Because it's 9? He's like, no, a different time every night. Just shuffled us over.
Yeah.
So we went there, we saw that though, but we had to go across the street and around the way to this other spot. But, yeah, mostly it's not a big vacation. I mean, we're just moving to Maine, that's the idea. So, gonna try to do open source software.
Yeah, well, something, whatever. Find a way to do it, make a living.
Well, I thought, I'm gonna try not to get a regular job and just do some of these other things, and I have some possible people that might hire me contract-wise. Though the whole, I don't know, with the Obamacare, it looks pretty expensive still. We'll have to see. Because that stopped me in the past, really, not being able to get on a group plan. And I don't know if you remember, but like I had brain surgery, so that's enough for them to just put paperwork, and I'd have to go to my doctor and pay him $1,000 to say, no, we probably could, and then who knows. So the pre-existing condition thing, when you have something like that in your 20s, it makes a difference, especially on being on my own, because I easily get insurance if I work for somebody else. But I figured I could work for somebody else as a network admin or something. There's way more work up there in Maine. Seems rural, but in Hawaii, there's the same number of people, and they're all on this other island. It costs me as much to fly to Oahu as to fly to Virginia from Maine or something. So
Yeah.
you're really stuck there, whereas it's 1 million people in Maine, they're all right there, so there's better jobs in Maine than Hawaii. So that's not a problem, but I'd rather not work for somebody else, kind of sick of it.
Yeah, well, if you can get online work, like I said, a lot of it's...
Yeah, if I do work for somebody else, there's people more and more now that let you work at home, even for regular companies, if that's what you want to do. Big giant companies will do that. Where I was working was going to let me do that, but then I had a little issue with the team lead, and so I decided I was only going to be able to do it for 6 months, because I would have to move to a state where they had a controlling organization that controlled where I worked. Then I could have worked more indefinitely. They have a policy. In Maine, I could have worked 6 months, but instead I just took severance and left, and 6 months pay, no work though. So.
Yeah, old.
Kind of, but no, I really had to get off that island. That island it's a great place and all that for whomever, but I mean for me, I just had enough for various reasons. But and it's like driving right now has been a pleasure. I mean, it might not last that I want to drive like this, but it hasn't been a problem just because you feel really contained. I mean, like the friends we're talking to on our trip, they've gone to the other side of the island. If you want to just go somewhere, and even if you like hiking around here, right? But in Hawaii, it's not the same thing, because if you haven't hacked a path through the jungle, you can't go that way. So you can't just go and find a path or a little deer path. That's not the closest thing to that's like a pig path that you don't really want to take, because it's full of pigs for one, and muddy and stuff. There's no like ways through that you could find, and so the camping's different. So I'm looking forward to it up there, and in the summer. Plus, I like fires. So how do you heat this place? Just get propane?
No, I has gas.
Natural gas.
Yeah. I don't use. I just heat this room. Don't bother with the rest of the house.
And what? Just to use a space heater then, or?
No, I just turn the stove on.
Right.
But
Because I like wood heat, and I think.
We used to have a wood-burning stove, a chimney,
Uh-huh.
and so I had that. And the guy next door caught his house on fire, and it kind of scared me. Because you go to bed with the thing on, you don't know what the fuck it's going to do,
That's true.
It's old, But if I had a good hookup, the wood burner was kind of nice. But the downside is, though, then you're spending all this time driving wood, too,
Yeah.
And that's a bit of a bitch.
Yeah, but you can buy wood or whatever.
Yeah, well, I hate to buy it.
Well, it's good you can just collect wood. When I used to have wood heat, you do both.
Yeah, well, I mean, now, too, it's a paradise back there now, just because, we had the hurricane, it knocked down like 20% of the trees. And so, it's just, there's all this free wood down there now, just for the
Can you have fires outside? You ever have fires outside?
Yeah, they're illegal, but I'll do it. I used to do it every night, but habits change or whatever.
I thought you were like up in the hills behind something, but this is like this whole mountainside, this whole area is just full of these mansions.
Yeah, well, this is really unusual that this is still here.
So does somebody own all of those 5 addresses?
Yeah.
One person owns these 5 houses is why, and so they kept it this way.
Yeah. It was built like in the 40s as a summer resort for the people in New York. They come out and ride horses or something.
Right.
And so they were just summer cottages.
Right. That's what it looks like. Yeah, my aunt lives in a place that it was funny that she used to go as a kid, and now it's ruins. Now there's, it doesn't look, the grounds are all cracked and it's all turned to ruins, but all the cottages are great in the North Bay and San Francisco area. But yeah, so your landlord just isn't interested in selling out, because they could probably sell out to one of those people that likes to build that kind of house.
Yeah, it doesn't really work that way, just because, well, number one, the place is assessed, probably cost you $1 million, but and it just, you can buy a lot somewhere else for a lot cheaper. There's a lot of farmland around here and shit, so no one's going to buy this, and it's not the best location.
But so the person owned it for a long time?
Yeah, the same guy's owned it for 30 years.
And did he get it from his family? He bought it?
No, we bought it on a tax.
Right.
The old family, the original family had it, they inherited it down or whatever, and I guess no one kept much care of the place, so they lost it on taxes. So he bought a tax sale. But it was, we didn't do anything to, upgrade, they are shit little cottages, so floors. You know, everything's starting to go a little bit now.
No wonder you're so cynical about stuff. That's the town, and you grew up in this town.
Well, half my life.
Yeah, just half, right. We went through New Orleans. That was the other hard part of the journey. It's so crowded down there right now. It's just Fat Tuesday coming up.
Well,
But
so
my wife wanted to
different
go.
than when I was a kid. You know, as a kid, you know, Mardi Gras was a whole different thing. You know, it wasn't as civilized. You know.
Well, I was reading about going there with my stepson and everything. We were looking at it, and the people in New Orleans say that most of the parades, they aren't in the French Quarter or anything. They are still civilized, and they grew up going there as kids. People younger than me, 20 and 30-year-olds. It's like at the parades that go through the neighborhoods, they're just throwing stuffed animals and beads and stuff, and it's not super risque. But then on the freeway, we're driving by people with tits painted on the side of their minivans.
It's kind of a, you know. But I was never a parade person anyway, so I think a kid can live without that shit.
Yes, me too. The Grand Canyon was pretty cool. That's something worth seeing. Did you ever go by there on your road trips?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's worth seeing once.
It sticks in your head.
I like it.
Yeah. Too bad you didn't have time to go to the Painted Desert that's down there.
Yeah.
Parts of Colorado are really.
Yeah.
You know.
We went through the southern edge of that. We drove up, and when we left, we decided just to drive along how the into the Indian area, reservation areas and stuff. And those were some of the best lookouts actually, where you went right out, and it's not as big of a valley, but it's straight down, and you look over, and you're only like, I don't know, 1,000 feet, maybe it's 2,000, I don't know, but across there, it's just as massive, but it's kind of closer in. But and they had signs that said it was to the Painted Desert. I think we went along the south of it.
Well, it has the Petrified Forest, Painted Desert.
We went through the Petrified Forest at night again.
But it's
I wanted to go there.
It's a lot more desert, so there's less trees, so the canyon is even more impressive in some ways, just because it's all rock. You know. It's just
What's that?
The air cleaner.
Okay, I thought it was a bug zapper. I'm going, Gary has a bug zapper.
What worse is all five. It's like a multi.
Was that a bug?
No, I actually bought that thing on eBay though, but it's a thing for like putting into a big giant furnace, you know, to clean air, you know, for like some sort of industrial purpose. And I got it dirt cheap on eBay. The people actually still sent it to me, you know, for $50, and you know, you had to go buy one. It's, you know, $500 air
industrial.
cleaner. Yeah, so I just throw a fan through it. Makes me feel like. Well, I just like the idea that every time it sparks, it creates a little oxygen, which is nice. Oh, here's the
I don't have one. Okay.
Thinking about cigarettes all day.
Really? That's why you were impatient?
Yeah, definitely. Well, you're not allowed to be late.
So, yeah, I think I've seen that camera before too. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, well, it's just the only thing we don't know if the flips, the focal length isn't perfect.
Oh, that's a flip as well, but it has an attachable lens. What is that, macroscopic or something? Or?
No, it's just it just gives me a little bit more of a wider angle.
Yeah,
So you don't have to hold it quite as far away, you know, because the flips aren't really perfect.
Is that what you use when you're walking and talking?
This is the one I've been using. Yeah, I use another one too, another little junkier one. They do their job.
I'm kind of impatient with the editing part of the videos, you know. Like I don't take too much video because the computers are still really slow. But maybe not. I haven't bought a computer in like 5 years. I just got a new computer, so maybe it'll be faster. But they take forever.
I've got two pretty used computers, and they do okay. But you just have to. Well, you know how it is. You have to have everything in the right format to start with. You know,
I'm actually not good at knowing which one works faster.
Well, you just have to have you have to learn what your software likes, and once you figure out what your software likes, you can really cut the render down a lot.
The other thing though is this, it seems like on the Mac, Apple's been really shitty. First of all, they had a great old iMovie that they did a whole new version of, and they make it flashier and flashier, and things warp around and stuff, and they waste all the CPU on that. Plus, it's not really smart about what work it does, and so it's always chunking away, and then they want you to buy they don't want you to have a Mac Mini. It's like, so they like to sell the software. They keep their software updated so it doesn't really work well on their low-end machines. Unique is supposed to get a good machine, so I'm not getting another Mac. I got a laptop, a medium price laptop, and then a Linux machine. I found out you can build machines again super cheaper than buying them.
Well, like I said, you get used ones and you can upgrade them too, so that's, you know, like I said, the ones I have are both not.
Do you know about Newegg.com?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not bad, but I still go to eBay. eBay, you can get some.
Because then you could get it cheaper, yeah.
You can get shit on eBay cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just buy
New, including.
Well, I'm just saying,
yeah.
if you bought.
Once you know what you need, I haven't built machines for like 15 years.
Even if you put a new motherboard in, I'm just saying you could buy a machine for $110 or something. It has the power supply, you know, all the majors. Put a new motherboard in it, you know, and.
See, that's potentially a business again, because for a while you couldn't get it any cheaper than a Gateway or a cheap machine would sell, because they bought in bulk. But now you can get that stuff cheap again, and why not? If you can have a third of the price, you know, a really good machine now, brand new, is like $1,500, and you can build your own that's like crazy good for graphics or some stupid thing that would cost more, just for people that want something even better, and you can build those for like $500.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have to put a graphics card in anyway, because the only thing built into a motherboard sucks anyway. So, you know, I mean, you know, theoretically, you can just say that, yeah, why pay that kind of money when you can just buy the raw hardware and buy the board separate?
Well, I was looking like at $1,500 machines, Dell style, and there's some Linux people, and they're not cheap. And then building my own, I could get a better machine for $500. And building your own means Newegg sends you all the pieces, telling you it goes together, and you go clunk, clunk, clunk 20 minutes later.
Well, I bought a dual processor one, right? It cost me $75 delivered on eBay, right? So I paid $75 for power supply, the box, the motherboard for 2 processors. I bought the processor for $30, and then the only thing else I had to buy was a video card, and spent $35 for that. So for $125 or whatever.
And how fast is the processors?
Well, they both run at 2 gigs, 2 plus. You know, I'm just saying that, you know, it's a more physical, you know, it's not like having a dual core or you know, but I'm just saying you have 2 separate processors, so it does, you know, visit.
I don't think that's probably, if anything, better than dual core. It shares less of the circuitry.
Well, I'm just saying that it's, in my opinion, it runs nicer in terms of multitasking and stuff like that. It does have a pretty wide, you know, I have to go pretty far to crash it. You know, I can have 15 or 20, you know, Firefox windows open, and, you know, it's okay. You know, it does all right.
Both Chrome and Firefox have immediately gotten infected on my Windows by this thing that somehow installs itself, and then you push a link, like you're trying to click My Videos or something, and it opens up an advertisement window, and it puts ads on every page you go to. Like within 20 minutes, I have no idea why it's doing that.
Yeah.
What a crap machine. Seriously, it's like billboards and stuff. It is much better. I also installed Linux on this machine I got. There's not going to be problems like that on there.
Yeah, well, you know, the only problem with Linux is it's just getting your hardware to work. So.
But Ubuntu's fine now. You just put the CD in and you can run it without even installing it. It'll boot off the CD, and you can see if it works.
Yeah,
it should work, especially if you're buying new stuff.
But yeah, I know what that's the problem though. Is some of the stuff is obscure stuff.
And the problem is the video editing software and stuff. I don't think there's good software like that for it. Yeah, so that's another reason I was okay with getting a Windows machine. Plus, I'm going to do my own software, and you have to have a way to test on Windows stuff.
Well, these flip files do directly upload, you know, so you can just pull the file off.
That's cool. Yeah, I remember.
You just plug it into the USB, and it'll you know, it gives you a warning that it would prefer a different format, but they upload okay. They're big files because they're HD.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's the other thing. See, so you don't spend the time necessarily editing, you just upload.
Well, once you get used to doing it, you know, you don't have to fuck around. And if I have to combine files, then I have a program that just turns them into, you know, it doesn't recompile the files, it just combines them as files and then just puts a new header on them, and turns them into an API file.
Right.
And so it's just relabeled them. So it only takes like 4 minutes to do it.
What do you use to do that?
It's called something like Cam to AVI. I'll give you a link, or I'll give you the name of it anyway.
Because I'm going to learn how to do that stuff in Windows, maybe, because I'm not sure. I'll try it in Linux, but every time I try Linux editing software, it'll crash right in the
learn
middle.
these little tricks, you know, and so you make it kind of easy. Because now I'm doing batch files where I just run a, you know, that FFmpeg. You ever heard of that?
FFM.
Yeah, it's the same one Google's using. It's open source. And yeah, you can do a lot of modifications in terms of cutting the size of the video, but mostly you can do a lot of format changes. So you want to change from an MPG into a AVI, or you want to change it to a WMV. It does that shit really well, and you can control the frame rate. You can control, you know, the bit rate. You can, you know, so you can cut a file there. These 1 gig files, I can knock them down to, you know, 250 megs. You know, and alter the frame rate.
What do you do? A bat? How do you run it through a bat thing, or you have SIGWIN or something? The Linux?
Yeah, well, I technically just run it through a you know, a DOS window. You know,
I was curious which way.
It's a DOS executable.
Yeah,
so you just
command.com.
Right, so you just run it like that. But I mean, I can do it with bat. Because I'm always editing them, so I don't bother with the bat files. I just edit the text and run it in DOS.
No, I was using that for the server software I have on the server I have up, where you can upload videos. It'll accept any kind of video because it just goes into FFmpeg, which is smart enough, and then you get to tell it exactly what to do. And I think, what is it? There's a web standard coming format that'll be really useful for all this stuff. Webcam, I think it is, or something.
Well, that's almost the thing to think about doing, is if we got smart about it. I mean, it's knowing all the ins and outs of this thing, because nobody's done a really good, like, here's 100 back files that'll do different things you want to do, because there's so many configuration, you know. And no one, I mean, I don't know them. You know, I've just learned the ones.
No, and you research just one.
I've just learned the ones I've had to get it right for me. You know, but there's so much to know, and if, you know, somebody actually, because all the stuff that people who've made the open source, you know, they've made software based on FFmpeg, but it all turns into malware. You can load it on your computer, and it's okay for the first 3 months. You know, and then 3 months from now, all of a sudden, there's all kinds of shit.
It's one reason I want to do an open source stuff. There's just there's a standard of scrutiny that helps protect against that. If you work in Linux, it's possible to do that kind of stuff, but you just run into a lot less of it. And you don't have a Microsoft helping put the hooks in for malware because of the malware they wanted to do.
Yeah, it'd just be nice if somebody had some sort of, like, you know, all of them sort of got tarnished, you know, like CNET and all the rest of them, because, you know, they started to, you know, even Storage Force or whatever it is. Yeah, you know, they used to be reliable, but now a lot of shit is leaking in, you know. And
see, I haven't dealt with as much, because they're just like in Ubuntu, they have their software center, and you can download it. It's open source, and it's basically, they're all semi-vetted as real open source people making a tool because of open source reasons. They wanted to have that tool. But what I was thinking now for the video side is, first of all, when I get to Maine, I'm going to finish, because I'm just a couple weeks away from having a version of this, like an extension style thing. It's a JavaScript. It's basically the same kind of thing you do. But storage has been the problem. But there's Dropbox that'll give you 2 gigs, and there's other people. Why not just, you like to pay for your own storage, why not just have it integrated with the service where you use the first 2 gigs, and for me that's like 100 videos, or 75, and at that point you decide whether you start deleting them, or you pay Dropbox more, or you go to some other free service or whatever. People can handle their own storage, because if it's in the browser with JavaScript, it doesn't matter where it is.
Yeah.
And in WebM you can stream off of Dropbox.
Yeah, well, I'm still better off with like a GoDaddy if I, you know, if you pay up the whatever, $100.
How much storage do they give you?
Let's say well, see, that's the thing. You can get 120 gigs.
But didn't they fuck you over?
Yeah.
With that somehow?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I got fucked. You know, running. You know, I couldn't run the software I wanted to run just because they started controlling the, you know, the server apps. And so it was just a stupid, idiotic thing they installed where you can't have a certain number of files in a directory, so you couldn't have more than 100.
So you sorted that out and stayed with them.
Well, I sorted out in the sense that you kind of can't run the software, so that's when I took down the Blogger Dome site and I changed it. But I mean, so yeah, I'm full up on them. You know, I've used up all my space, and so I have to decide to do this editing thing where I'm going to decide what to delete, and then I'll, you know, put new stuff up and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, technically, for another $120, I can just get another account.
Yeah.
And you know, I can use that.
But the real solution I'm talking about is that's up to anybody. If their videos are online by whatever means of saving money or spending money that they want to do, this thing will stream it as well as that service streams videos. If it has a performance problem, it's for them, you know.
Yeah.
And then I mean, well, just because it's a big problem with all this. That's where a lot of the money goes if you were going to start a YouTube and do it better. Is all of and then also the bandwidth. But see, if it's all over the net on your GoDaddy and on Dropbox and on YouTube and various sites, then somebody else is paying for that. It's all distributed.
Yeah, I just don't see any point in trying to, you know what I mean? You've got to pay something to get something. And so if you try going with all these free choices, then you're always vulnerable to the games they play. So I guess I'm just saying that I don't mind paying a little.
I still don't think that YouTube could be making money off of us because of the storage and the bandwidth.
But there's no way they're making money, so
yeah.
You know.
So thinking of competing or doing a better YouTube is like it has to be done differently.
It's not practical because we can't, you know, obviously they're subsidizing the service in a sense, so there's no way.
Which is why they're going to drown out.
But I'm just saying, but what they're not doing is the organizing, and they're getting even worse at that, right? I mean, you can't even search videos now. You can just search the titles. You can't search the description.
I saw you saying that, but I thought the search was screwed up for a long time. But yeah.
Well, I'm just saying it went from bad to worse. Is all I'm saying. But I'm just saying those little features, like I'm just saying, even organizing content more specifically to different subjects, economics and this and having categories. And, even if this stuff's on other sites, I'm just saying, even if we provide some value that doesn't exist in the YouTube system.
Yeah.
Then that's
well, the idea is you have this software.
But I don't see any need to put up a website.
Yeah, no.
For people to post videos of their cat or their dog.
Yeah. Or their the dog. Well, sure. No, I think it's fine that there is a website like that, but I don't think you need to store. What really bugs me actually, if I was running a site, is like all the copyright and just all the multiple copies of the same thing and all of this stuff. But the general idea is if it's based in the browser, then it's actually like running a program on your own computer, and it's just using the network. And I do want to have a website, but that website just has the part where people have rated videos and tagged them.
I'm still back to the bottom line is the content is what matters. Okay, it's not about the freedom part. The freedom part is nice, but the content is the idea that there's nothing online now where you can go to get philosophy or science or you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Or
they're
discussion.
all very narrow. Like this guy is doing educational videos, but it's one guy. You know what I mean? There's no back and forth. There's no discussion. There's no conversation.
It's all forced by the community that wants to do that.
The sites that are open, like Tiny Chat, is nice. Okay, you can get in there and have some kind of conversation, but it's not the kind of thing that
it's not necessarily long for the world either.
Well, again, it's not a watchable medium in the sense that it's not like it hasn't been condensed into some sort of hour-long, high content thing. It's a social network.
Or even when it's not condensed. Doing it the YouTube style makes it more watchable than going into
the app itself.
Stickam, and maybe there's a conversation you're interested in or not. So, but I also agree. Well, I've said before, right? So my idea with making the condensed thing is you have your own database, and people can tag and mark, hey, I like this part, and thumbs up. Maybe it's right to the time code when they did it. Those kind of things you could then using FFmpeg automatically edit your highlight clip. And if you want to make it really watchable, then you still have a person go and then select down from that, but get really a lot of help making it a quick process and making a few comments.
Right, people go as deep as they want, but always have the content filtering, but it's always agenda content. And that's what I'm saying is right now there's no choice for that now. There's no, like, even when there were computers, even when Blip and Vimeo were worth the trouble, they still are just as unorganized. And there's absolutely, to think about the internet, and you're saying the internet has become a lame place to have conversation because it's all scattered all over the place. 5 million different blogs. Subjects are all over the place. I mean, I think if you had one place that had directed conversation, was somewhat like a Wikipedia, a little bit organized, that would have real value because there's nothing out there doing that.
I want to hook it to the blogs and stuff. You don't really. Did you blog ever, or not blog, but Usenet or any of the text version?
I don't mind the blogs existing. I just mean that I don't see any point not having more expedient
Yeah.
editorial comment.
Well, what do you think of my idea that it should be both? Like, if you want to reply to a blog, you ought to be able to highlight what you're replying to, click reply, and then say
Yeah,
video,
exactly.
my own blog, Facebook, you know, whatever.
No, and that's where all this time code stuff can come in to it too, and where you can break everything into 5-minute sections.
And then instead of saying, hey, here's the subjects that you have to talk about, you just limit yourself to subjects where people do that. If people are talking about knitting and they want to go, hey, I disagree with this sentence, red is the better color, you know, as long as they will do that point-to-point thing, then that is one of the subjects. You know, as long as people are going back and forth, then, and you would get politics and philosophy out of that, right? Because that's something people, you know, would mostly do that with. So what's that now?
That's just my phone. We'll let the machine have that one.
So yeah, I mean, well, we'll see. I'm gonna open my response TV stuff is already actually on GitHub, but I'm gonna wait till it's done to, you know, to publish it. But I'm curious to see if you'll use any of it.
Well, a good video player, if you have.
Hi, this is Congressman Rodney Frelinghuysen. I'm calling to invite you to participate in the live town hall meeting conducted over the telephone. You get the opportunity to ask questions about the president's healthcare rollout.
Excuse me, but I mean, our congressmen have always been the sons and daughters of,
Please feel free to contact my offices at Morristown and Washington should you have any questions. Or visit my website at frelinghuysen.gov. Also, if you'd like to receive some important updates about federal issues, I encourage you to sign up.
See, that's weird to me. It really is the Wild West out there. I used to think that's funny when people from the East Coast would think of California that way. But it's very different in things like that. Like there's a few famous families, but you don't run into them. They don't keep being the Congress people.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's like, it's just this whole family nepotism thing. It's almost like the Bushes or something, or the Forbes. You know, it's like the Forbes Jr. You know, people of no merit, really. You know, and their only merit is their name. Yeah. You know, they have no business really having the voice they have.
Well, I was realizing a lot of the what has become the upper crust in America and on the East Coast and coming into the East Coast were people that were just toadies in the feudal system, and they were treated like nothing, even though they made a living and were their professions and everything. But you know, they weren't part of the royal family, so they were out of that. And so part of the bad thing about the whole American dream is people that wanted to do like the last step and become like royalty. They're like, I'm wealthy enough to be royal, but I'll never be treated royal, you know, in Europe. But in America, they could be. And now we're a couple hundred years south of that, and it's, you know, as far as they're concerned, that's how they feel about themselves. And yet it's still kind of pathetic when you're talking about this whole system comes from, it's a bad system, obviously, to begin with, but, I mean, some of the families in Europe are talking about thousands of years of that. And that starts to be a big chunk of history, at least, you know. Then again, we're getting a couple centuries, you know, but that's kind of what they're trying to build, I think. The dark side of America has that elitist attitude.
Yeah, well, it's not based on any kind of merit. That's the thing that sucks about it. You know, it's just not, you know, it's not like these people, you know, at least the Kennedys had the pretense of the education and the networking and the exposure. You know what I mean? So they had some credibility. But I mean, these guys are like, you know, they're debutantes. You know, all they've done is gone to the pageants, you know, but they haven't done any of the work. It's, you know, what the fuck are they talking about?
You mean also in the way what the subsequent generations have done with their time?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying.
Like the Kennedy family kind of keeps up with, like, you know, being educated.
It's like if your father was a physicist, you know, you can't just ride on his name being a physicist. You know what I mean?
You can if you're a banker.
You're going to have to be you're going to have to crack a book and actually do physics. You know, and I'm just saying that these guys have done nursery school politics, you know, nursery school business school. You know what I mean? They have a nothing, you know, in terms of a real understanding of any of these mechanics, and they're just riding on the name. You know, that's the bullshit.
Yeah, well, I would like to subvert all that if I could. That would be the ultimate thing. But I've kind of given up on anything quite that grand. But there's still cracks in the dam.
I just did a couple of videos, you know, that I titled Third Party, because, you know, I figure that's part of my future agenda. Is this whole idea of, you know, beyond creating a debate site. The whole idea of it is to create some sort of place where people can, you know, not the actually, well, you know, the truth or kind of truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But like, there is a truth underlying this whole fucking bullshit. And if we can dissect it without being, lunatics and you know, 9/11 truthers and all that kind of crap. And you're saying there's all this energy for people to who actually have a cynicism, and it's so misdirected. You know, they've all followed the Ron Pauls and shit, and they're saying, why are they falling for that crap?
Yeah.
You know?
No, I totally agree. And well, one thing I thought was, what about a meta party where the whole party was, look, we're not going to have a party that's equal to those guys. We're going to run candidates, and some of them will be Republicans, some will be Democrats, and you know, just like an open conspiracy to use the parties against each other. You know, like the parties would try to stop you with that. They're not exactly idiots. I've worked, and in the local politics, that was one of the things that got me interested in your channel, is way back when you were covering local politics somewhat still, right? Because I realized there's so much money and corruption at that level. How are you going to start at the top? You would have to get the corruption out of City Hall, and that's where you need some real bozos that don't even have the charm to make you think you're getting charmed. They're just, you know, they're just like authoritarian hotheads.
But see, they're just following the broken game.
You think you can do it from the top, though?
You have to do it from the top. It's broken from the top down. But the little towns are just following the lead of the big story. You know what I mean? They're just imitating. It's like what they do in these other countries when they get democracy.
Yeah.
They do the democracy the same stupid way we're doing it. They don't create a new form of democracy. They just follow the old geographic districts. You know, the same majority wins every election because it's all of, you know, it's the same majority.
Well, and there's ways to buy out the government through
I'm just saying,
precedents.
they don't think in terms of representing ideology. They keep thinking in terms of representing geology, because everybody's a clan or a district, and you know, and that's just not realistic in any kind of modern country. You know, I bet it doesn't happen in Japan.
But I think you need to have like a county that did away with county districts and elected philosophically. To, you know, you'd have to seed that in a small place.
No, I think you got to start with a state, maybe, but you know,
it
would be best to start with the Congress.
The thing is, in America, you'd start with some stupid, you know, weird state that would end up being run by Aryans or something. Would be the first ones to do it.
Yeah, well, they couldn't get anywhere anyway because obviously they're going to be a minority. So, you know.
Well, I'd like to see it anywhere, but you know what I mean. It's like if you start that in Texas, you're going to get a different result than if you start it in New Jersey or California.
Yeah, well, I think Nader could have done it, but he just threw away his power. So my vision would be is you just start a national party. All right, you get 3 million people, and I think 3 million is the key number. So once you have 3 million, you just walk up to the Democrats and say, I can move 3 million votes in this election.
Right.
So if you can move 3 million votes,
yeah,
you can scare the hell out of them.
Yeah.
You know, you say, look, I don't get a bargain from you. 3 million votes are going to that.
That's what I'm talking about, a meta party.
No, I'm just saying, the only way to get this done is...
For people that want to say they're independents, but up to the next level. Well, I'm not a disinterested independent.
You have to make yourself a special interest. You don't have to be owned by a party, but you have to be a special interest.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So with all the people, the disaffected, have to get together and have to say the first priority is make sure third-party candidates can run and win. So you have to do the instant runoff voting, get rid of the spoiler thing. So that's the first thing you fix, right? The second thing you fix is every congressional body, every legislative body should be representing ideology, not geography. So they shouldn't be elected from a district. They should be elected based on how many votes they got.
Yeah.
And it should be all plus votes. No stealing representation. So no, I shouldn't have a congressman I hate.
Right.
That shouldn't be a possibility that my vote goes to some son of a bitch I hate. That should never happen. So you create a Congress that's made up of all kinds of loonies, right? You got complete crazy Klan members in full Klan gear, you know what I mean? You'd have all the extremes would be represented.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a real Congress then. Then you have a real fight with these assholes. You know, and then you can show the
I think there should be both. Like, I always like the idea that there would be some geographic, though. That you would share half or a third geographic.
You want to keep the Senate part geographic. I'm just saying it doesn't do anybody.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I think I suggested that before. Keep the Senate geographic because it's a big unit. And I'm fine actually with the small state versus big state thing.
As soon as you put in any geography into ideology, you dilute the ideology.
Yeah,
So
no,
I'm just
obviously it's
saying,
an assumption. You drive the places I've driven through. There's plenty of.
well, I'm just saying that's where the
every
no
kind of
dime of
person.
difference happens, is because you're going to get the same baby kisser sellouts will win every majoritarian election across the country. It's just like, you know, it's my smoking argument, right? I mean, 20 million cigarette smokers, and they have no congressman, right? So it's like basically telling the whole state of California you don't get any congressmen. That's how, you know, in a way, that's how big a ripoff it is in the current system. Because any minority that's not segregated is out of luck.
So what's your idea on a party? I mean, so the thing is, the part is that if you choose a bunch of issues, that's what new parties try to do.
Well, that's what I'm
you
saying.
almost need to
That's
choose,
why I'm saying,
like I like the IRV.
Keep it incredibly simple.
Issue.
So the first issue is the instant runoff voting. So you extort the Democrats or the Republicans to say whoever gives it to us first, you know, an up or down vote in the Congress. Okay, that's where our votes are going. So we got 3 million votes. Our 3 million votes are going to go to whatever candidate gives us a guarantee of an up or down vote in Congress. All right.
Yeah.
You know, and so then once you get instant runoff voting, then I say you go for the geographic thing. That'll be your next election. Because now you're a more powerful third party, because now people actually can vote for you. So now you're even a bigger threat to their power. But I'm just saying, you just keep extorting for each one of the platforms, and so you never have to get elected. Okay, you don't have to win a single election. It's just the fact that you have the votes to extort them. And that's all politics is about.
So like in the semantics, the issue is then because it's like a single party issue. I mean, a single issue organization rather, but it's not. It's going to go from issue to issue. That makes it more like a party, and yet you want to operate like a special. You want to operate like the ACLU, though.
Right. I think all the disaffected could agree on instant runoff voting.
If they understood it.
Right. Well, I'm just saying they could agree on the idea of having representation, right? So I think these are very populist ideas.
Totally,
so I think me and a libertarian could agree that this is a necessary reform. Okay? Now, the minute I start doing my progressive thing, he goes his own way, I go my own way. So we don't have to stay organized for the secondary issues. We only have to stay organized to get the ones we need. And then, like I said, then once I have viability, I can grow people of my own philosophical ilk and have my own party, you know, that has more of an identity. But the initial party should have no identity beyond fixing the democracy. And maybe an accountability would be good. You know, have some kind of policy about government officials violating the law and how they should have higher penalties, or how we should have cameras on cops' heads. I think those are issues that can go both parties. You know what I mean? Right and left can both agree on a subject like accountability. You know, that if you're going to take a public service job, you have an obligation that's higher, you know, than if you're going to work for a private corporation.
They do that for the regular employees. When we have the Just Say No Drug War, for example, those regular government employees are the first people subject to all of these new standards. It's just not management.
Well, I'm just
and it's not police officers. That's the weird thing. But that's almost so, I mean, like, that's the kind of thing I would have hoped to see solved in my lifetime, that I'm not so sure. But I think you can start that process. And I actually think having a way to do this public dialogue where people can get pinned down to their words is the first, for like a 0th step, because that way, at least, if we're arguing things like IRV, and then that doesn't happen for a few years because we've argued it out, there's a record. Here's the arguments, and when people are finally, you know, it's part of what they find when they're searching. When somebody hears about it and searching, they see an argument at this level of humans versus humans. And again, any media, but I kind of agree that the video media is sort of, there's a, you know, it's a really important one, because it's the closest to word of mouth if you're going back and forth, you know, as opposed to two people emailing each other. It can be, you can miss a lot of what they're saying. Over time, if you talk to somebody face to face, you're going to get some idea of what's going on.
I think it just is a lot less propaganda proof. You know, everything has to have a lot more credibility to survive the live interaction than it has to have when you're just writing a blog. Because you read blogs, right? And there'll be premises to the argument, and you'll hit one of those premises, and you just say, well, you know, if I went by this standard of this one sentence, this whole blog is a pile of shit.
Well, see, I think you can solve that by being able to respond and notate. But there's another thing: if you have too much of a chance to edit really well, you can't hardly edit something and look like it was live. You know what I mean? If you polish your video, it looks polished.
I know, but the point is they never fix it. They're never obligated to
Yeah,
correct
no.
it. So my
But it's
point,
the same problem we have.
Well, I know, but
There's
my argument
no
is,
tool to pinpoint
right,
that.
exactly. So that's why you need like a Wikipedia that sets up these two pro and con pages and obliges the people who are defending those pages to edit them.
There's a page like that, and it allows you to do points and counterpoints and all this stuff, but it's got all the pieces, but it just doesn't click as what you want to do really is be able to browse and do simple things like stupid things like thumb up and thumb down, but make that mean something, because if the tool is this site basically used standard like what an argument is, according to people that are very careful about how arguments are supposed to work. And it ends up being a lot of work to put your argument in that form. So part of my idea with what a bunch of us have been talking about is that there's people already that like to debate, and there's people that like to watch it. And the people that like to watch it should have some extra power and tools to go, that was bullshit, I enjoyed that, but fact check, it was wrong, but it was still enjoyable, and market all these ways, and a lot of that you throw away, but some of it used to clip out videos and things.
I think that'll all get automatically cleaned by the process. Like say if we both wrote a blog, okay, disagreeing on a subject, right? So we made our propaganda statement as best as we could, okay? We made an eloquent statement for something, you made an eloquent statement against it. Now what if the video makers or the editorial people just were totally focused on just ragging, tearing it down? Now, if then obviously it's going to look bad if you don't correct for what they tore down. So that's my argument. It's just as long as you keep everything you can almost have the two individuals. Like me and you might not ever interact, but all I interact with is the people defending your position, and all you interact with is the people defending my position.
Right.
So you just take out all this noise and bullshit, and then I'm obligated not to look like an ass. So if some guy makes a good point in defense of yours against mine, I'm going to have to fix it.
Yeah.
Leaving it alone isn't going to work, because this easy statement this guy can make, well, this is why this guy's full of shit, because he basically...
Well, why can't it also be somebody else fixes it? Because there's people that would never fix it, and they shouldn't, because maybe that's how obtuse they are, and maybe they turn out right or whatever, to be charitable.
Well, I'm just saying
so other people fix it, and then you have affinity groups.
Is whether, I don't care whether it's 4
Not
people.
Affinity groups, actually.
I don't care whether it's 4 people or 10 people. I'm just saying that it has to be few enough people of good enough credentials that it's their responsibility in the end. It always has to be somebody's responsibility. You can't make it 10,000 people's responsibility, because then you're just diluting the pool again. And you want it the cream rising to the top thing to happen as much as possible. So I think you have to have people that have earned it, and then they have the right to earning it to have the discretion about what gets changed and what doesn't get changed.
Well, I wonder if you'll get this. So because you program, so the software model I'm using is kind of, imagine that I do all of that work. I go around and I actually am careful about who I trust. Oh, this guy I know is a judge and a lawyer and a lawyer. I trust them on whether this was a good legal argument, and I did all that myself, but you can't actually do it. And so the software actually, that's where, friend and other associations, where friend's just the word, like you mark your association. Maybe you disagree with them, but they are a lawyer, and so to take their legal opinion seriously. You can't do all of that time, so you trust other people that have made those trust judgments and those trust judgments. And then with the statistics, you can get, kind of cluster mechanics of the view of a trusted community. But if you think about atheism versus Christianity, of course you can, an intelligent theist is going to trust different people, right? So they're not going to agree, but it's all going to be really clear. And if I go through it, I'll be able to make sense of, here's what the Christian scientists think, here's what the atheists think, here's what the astronomers clubs
says. I think you can beat it by just having good categories. So if you have to sign up for a category, like you're a physicist or you're a philosopher, you're this or you're this or you're this, you're put into a category, and then you fight for the hierarchy of that category. And then once you rise in that hierarchy by whatever standards are dictated, then you gain more and more credibility in terms of decision making about what that subject is.
I think my idea is that I don't have to understand exactly how to build that hierarchy. There's no tools to define it. If I define it, modeling it as if I define all of the hierarchies. I say, hey, promote this guy. But in reality, you might be accepting, forever will films advice on who to promote, and so you reap the benefit when you log in of, hey, there's a guy promoted. On the other hand, because of this model, you could go, what the fuck, I hate that person, and then you would still have enough data to have demoted that person in your view, but meanwhile all the other antinatalists see the promotion. You know what I mean?
We've had that conversation before. It's like the rating system on YouTube would actually mean something if you only had 5 pluses and 5 negatives to give away a month.
Right.
Okay?
Slashdot does this. I don't know if you remember. We have talked about it. Yeah. So Slashdot started that way, where you just randomly get 5 moderation points every once in a while based on their algorithm and based on you not having been marked an idiot too many times. And it does work. It works really well, and they don't even have to kick their trolls because they just get sent down to this basement where their posts start out at like -3. Nobody sees it unless you go out of your way to browse at that level, which I often do. I mean, some of the best jokes are certainly down there. Some of the crudest, best humor is down there. A lot of bullshit's down there, but I like it that way, and I understand this filtering process that way, and there's something good about not having to block the people per se. They're less trouble than when you block them and they decide to denial of service you or whatever. I mean, they just go more crazy.
Yeah, well, you know, YouTube's playing some games like that because everybody just marks everything as spam now. But, you know, that's
people will
bullshit.
use the tools,
you know, they'll abuse the tools.
Yeah.
So that's the catch, though. If you have a system where you're accountable and where every spam you do, you know, every time you spam something, it's recorded. Every time you downrate or plus rate, you know, all your activity is recorded. And so you're going to be judged based on your performance. So I mean, if you're obviously just being an asshole, you're going to get downgraded.
Well, the thing about Wikipedia that's really important, but it's hard to capture this, but you know, there's this really clear thing, and they've done, you know, it was analyzed. Why does it work at all? Because even the creator didn't plan for it to work. He originally had a private, you know, .com idea where he was going to have more like PhDs in their spare time do Wikipedia instead of hiring them.
I knew the guy who did Wikipedia.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the reason Wikipedia works, they say, is because it doesn't take long to reverse vandalism. So like your 1% of people that care can outpace. You know, they got an exoskeleton.
Exactly
that's hard to capture in general, but when you can get an element like that, like, wait, the 1% that's going to want to make this database not bullshit, if I can give them a tool to do that quicker than the guys that are and fucking it up.
It's still a hierarchy, and so that's the
but they've had a lot of drama, but it's worked.
That guy, me, this other lawyer guy, we 12 years ago, whatever, we were fighting about all this stuff because you know, indexing the internet. So this is all right before, you know, when Google was still not a company, you know, all back then. And but we came out of indexes, you know, directory websites. So instead of, you know, searching the web like a spider, you would actually go and look at a website and then put it in the directory.
Well, that's how Yahoo started.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it was exactly like that, except we weren't charging any fees.
Right.
So it was supposed to be cleaner because it wasn't bribery involved. Right. But the problem was exactly this, the editor problem. Because then people who had special interests, like I own my own painting store, and all of a sudden I'm going to run the painting category, and I'm going to put my store first, and I'm going to be all on the keywords, and I'm going to downrate everybody else's website and fuck them on the key, you know, so that's what the problem was. And so that's this guy Jumbo, he went through this whole bullshit of trying to fix, you know, how do you create a mechanism where you can screen these editors, you know.
You mean that's the Wikipedia guy?
Yeah, so he came out of that same environment.
So he developed a way to screen the editors, and that worked in an open environment without requiring the PhD.
But see, he was in the same subject.
Well, because I know there's this whole neutral point of view thing that is the core of that, right? Of how you judge those guys.
Because Wikipedia really started as another way of indexing the internet.
Okay. Oh, I never heard about that.
The first idea wasn't an encyclopedia. The idea was, well, it was an encyclopedia of the internet.
Okay, I get that.
Okay, so that was where the original idea came from. Was that you would have an encyclopedia of the internet.
Like at the bottom of the Wikipedia page where it says, here's the pages that talk about this, that we believe in.
Right, well, I'm just saying, so that's how it, you know, he came out of the same environment, and we were all, you know, doing this debate about, like, how much of the content should be dictated merely by algorithms, and how much of it needs a human to make a judgment about whether this is spam or this isn't spam or this is bullshit. And so, you know, this whole idea of rating the content and what content comes up on the first page of a search result and all that discussion.
Well, and it's moderators versus community, too. Because moderators never scale very well. So with Wikipedia, you have the community feeding the moderator system, and so there's a, the bigger the community of readers, the more people have wanted to edit. Whereas if you're hiring moderators, we know that doesn't work because they can't keep up.
We know that the editors, though, are also, they put enough obstacles in the way, like they say, once somebody has authority on a subject, it takes something rather dramatic to knock them down.
Yeah.
So that's still the way the system sort of works, is that there is this hierarchy, and people who are reliable on a subject do get, like I'm just saying, there's always a burden of trying to, some new guy can't just pop in and start re-editing.
I want to make a tool where a community, where there's room for more than one community to take that role of deciding how the indexing works. Because I'm not really sure which model. And I do think it has to be like some guy with that starts off getting trusted naturally gets to choose who to trust. And but I can't imagine one community doing it because they decay, right? And somebody else has to start up.
It also gets into who's using the page and all this convenience thing, because the other part about Wikipedia was kind of nice originally was that you had all the other versions of the page, so you could always go back to the page 6 months ago and see.
Well, what do you mean? They still have that, don't they?
Yeah, but I just mean it was more accessible, let's just say, for the average viewer.
Yeah.
So he'd have more of awareness that this page changes every 10 days, because people are having a dispute over exactly what Aristotle's role was and blah, 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 blah.
Well, but that's the key thing, too, because like when, I don't know if you ever saw when, what's that guy after the Daily Show, the Colbert Report. He's done a couple things, but sometimes he's told people to go edit crazy things into Wikipedia. And it's like, all it does is prove how strong Wikipedia is. Because first of all, people that are editors, or in the mind of an editor, see that too, so they rush there, and it's a big game, and sure they have to do it, but they had no trouble. I mean, you go to the page and try to see the error, it was just as hard to see as it was to maybe do it while the show was broadcasting and see it. So, it's like, I don't know exactly, well, I think right now it's easy to have a web server where I could support multiple communities. Like, you come onto this thing, and in the extension you go, I'm going to start one of these. I'm the guy. I'm the beginning of a trust network. And I'll decide who the deputies are.
Well, exactly.
And then people will notice.
You get responsible for the gang you have working under you, kind of thing. So that's what I mean by the hierarchy.
But you could have multiple hierarchies that are also competing, is what I'm saying. Because any one hierarchy decays. There's all kinds of reasons. People change, they go through life changes. Maybe the guy that was brilliant at it in his 30s had some ulterior motives in his 40s, or this thing about a guy owning a paint business. You have to assume some guy has to keep his family alive, and he's going to decide to make a self-centered decision. You have to assume for that statistically.
Yeah, I know, but you can have the systems that police themselves, but you have to have enough accountability in the system to make that work. So I guess my argument is that maybe the people at the highest point in the hierarchy, they've given a credit card number, they're really established individuals, and then they can hire other people, so to speak, not hire, but approve other people, and they're going to be responsible for their behavior. So if they fuck up, it's going to be on their name. So it's almost like being a parent, and you're going to be responsible for what your kid does, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing. It's going to rub off on you.
I was thinking of this as far as how to make some money so that it was sustainable, is that you give everything away for free. You want people to make videos and watch videos for free. But maybe you could go ahead and charge people to set up a trust network that they control. Right, and maybe there's even some branding, so that if you go to this viewer and you click on going to, it's like going to a website of the person that has, they basically paid for a website, but really it's JavaScript going to a website and getting data.
If you create a system that does this thing in the first place, I think the end product will be of a high enough quality that you can sell it.
Yeah.
That you can put on TV for half an hour.
Like the DVDs, if you do a good enough job, you can have an actual
I'm just
program.
saying we could actually make something out of this.
Do you think it's going to be automated though from this process, or is somebody going to see these clips and I don't know, make their snarky remarks in between? Is it going to, like Tosh does this roundup of crazy internet viral stuff, but he ties it together. They couldn't just have a show with.
Is having different people argue, making different points, and they're going to be in a hierarchy, and so you're going to evolve the conversation. So eventually, the conversation is going to be controlled by what's worked in the past,
right.
in terms of how arguments are made, and then it's really going to be a performance issue. Whoever can perform the argument the best. So you're going to have both the content you're going to be arguing and the way the person arguing it are both going to be tested, and so you just create an evolution, you know, the survival of the fittest kind of thing, and so it survives the gauntlet. What you end up at the end is somebody who's really good at arguing this subject, and you're going to have a really good debate between the two best debaters, pro and con. You know, you create
in the highlight thing. So there, let's say you automate a highlight of some argument, highlights from some argument, and it could be 2 or more people, right? Is that, you see that as being just generated and goes straight up, or does a human have to look at it and decide, well, no, not this clip, or I will say something to explain
well,
the following clip?
I don't know if we got enough software capacity to judge the quality of video, so I just don't know if that would work.
Well, you'd be having the quality of videos. The automated process is just judged by viewers. Like, let's say there's thumbs up and thumbs down, but it's not just thumbs up. It says, you know, intelligent or honest or whatever the keywords are, and and then you take that, use that to make clips, to get clips that people like. You know, you're basically just watching spikes. So people have a device where when they like something, you know, this curve spikes, and you just use FFmpeg to cut out that part. Very easily done, that part. And I'm going to do that part, but what I don't know is if you need to tie it together with a host. Does a host have to go, oh, and then so and so said? You know, you need a host to make it sellable. Is that part? I'd watch the raw thing.
Yeah, I think the content's going to be clean enough that you don't need a host, in the sense that you're really trying to just come up with a 15-minute segment or whatever, a 10-minute segment that's really deep in terms of content. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not a whole bunch of small talk, not jokes, not clowning around. You know, because you watch these debates even, you know, how much time do they waste? You know, telling stupid jokes and being personable and all that crap, and not getting to the argument anyway. So it's almost like I want them on a trap door. I want them nervous. I want it to all be very intense, like this is a game show, and you know, you bit the clock kind of thing. You're beating the clock or whatever. Everything's on you. You know, this is I want to create the idea of this. You know, the whole Bloggerdome idea, the whole, you know, 2 men enter, you know, 1 man leaves kind of thing. You know, where there's something at stake here. You know, that this is a contest you've been working your way up to. This is the Olympics of philosophical conversation, and you're either going to win the gold medal or you're going to go home an asshole. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that would be a good form. I think there's a bunch of forms of this. What I think I understand is how to make some tools that'll help us keep track of stuff better. And then, well, somebody will have to come along and see how those tools can be used to make various genres of debate. And I think, for sure, like, the most popular kind that would, you know, make a big splash will be one man leaves kind of stuff.
Yeah, well,
but I think there'll also be people doing more delicate arguments that are actually want the other side to attack their points because they're the kind of person that's going to go back to the drawing board with it, and they'll use it more. That's why I like to call it structured conversation. But I mean, my thing, I think I bought the 5 battle kind of. I'm into a battle version of all of this. I think it's fun.
I'm just saying, it starts off, you know, it has to filter up through all this process. So obviously it starts off one way, but it's going to have to finish with something that's concise and sellable. You know,
one thing too is, how do you start the community? I've been thinking about that because I see it as working, like a system analysis of this system would work. But how do you get that critical mass of people? And one thing I liked about it, Kickstarter, when I was looking at doing the website version, because it was going to take enough money to do that, was, okay, well, the prize for your Kickstarter is you're the starting community, and we take our chances with that. If you were into it enough to support it, then now you're one of the people that's trusted, you know. And I don't know if that would work, but at least it's a way to get that community. But right now, I think with how many people reacted to Fred's idea and stuff, I think we probably just have a community of a few hundred people that we could just trust just make trust in anything like this.
I think you have to just first have to produce something. So I think once you produce something,
you say produce something compelling that people come see.
I'm just saying.
How do you get that community?
Well, I'm just saying that. Well, I mean, I think we have
we have it. That's what I was saying. It's been farmed.
I think we just have to consolidate into one thing, like whether it's one subject or it's one thing, and you make a nice demo of how this is going to work, and you create something of a good enough quality. That it becomes a viral video on YouTube or something, or it does, you know what I mean?
Totally.
You have to.
That's what I was saying. I think the seated community could be just a like when you see it.
I think you're gonna have to make something before you can sell it. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to build it from the bottom up. You're going to have to build it, have it actually produce something, and then once you produce something, then you'll get the.
Well, plus my goal on this is like I got to go make money off of doing software still, and it's not going to be in this area. Just like with I never monetize my channel, but there has to be a money because sustainability in the long run. If people are just doing it out of their volunteer spare time and they don't, I mean, there has to be a sustainability.
I just want to get away from the advertising model, except on like a TV show.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a big part of the goal.
That makes some sense, but it's still, I mean, I want to get away from that as far as possible. Get away from the idea of, this is what it's dependent on, because that's just so corrosive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's corrosive to the audience you're going to generate, right? Because advertising only works on idiots anyway.
Yeah. Well, we see that at YouTube.
So you can't make any money on advertising on intelligent content anyway. What advertiser wants to advertise on intelligent content?
Yeah, no. So, yeah, I agree with that. I think we need this tool, and one reason is, I just enjoy doing it. So if I make tools that make it more fun to do, then I can't lose. But then again, I could focus too much on like a tool, like writing my own spider, and then that's not quite enough. I need a tool that other people want to use too, so that there's a community of people using this tool. And then I agree. I think the ability for that to be sustainable and pay for its own servers, and start a server that has hundreds of gigabytes, because it's like, no, that's what we do. We save this stuff, forever. That could grow, but you're not going to try. But you can't. Like everybody that watches these philosophical videos, not the amazing atheist level, but people that are discussing these issues, and there's a couple hundred views for most of the average people doing this, and the people that comment and watch those people are not going to provide the sustainability. They're providing the motivation and the energy to keep the thoughts happening.
Well, what you need,
and people, if you get something sweet enough that this outer side that's like, oh, I can watch this 15-minute thing every week, and I see what people are bitching about.
You're going to need to challenge. I think gaining your popularity, you're going to need to go through those people eventually. So eventually, you're going to have to appeal to those audiences.
To the wider audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So eventually, you're going to.
Like even the Amazing Atheist, what's going on? I mean, there's people that have done these, or there's school science channels that have gotten audiences of people, and I would like to see that, and that's great, but I'm not as into that version of educational stuff as I am the debate, people getting challenged, because you watch these science channels and they're great, and then you see one, you're like, what the fuck? Or they're for GMOs, and you can't argue.
Well, yeah,
and you should be able to argue, and they should keep their reputation and maybe fail on that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, then you go back to the, Captain Quantum, or whatever the hell that, 3 billion view video is. It's absolute crap, I mean, it's a piece of nonsense of science,
Yeah, we should talk about something where, we're being too, what were you talking about, not fighting enough. Let's talk about physics. Right before I gotta go, though. You're not supposed to ban me in real life. So, well, I'm gonna be working on that, and I have free time. I definitely have a few months while I'm gathering up and some work that I think is gonna come my way anyway. So there's definitely enough time. I'm gonna have a few months to finish some of those things and work on some other stuff too. So that should be fun.
Yeah, like I say, if you find a use for me, let me know. But, you find something.
Well, yeah, my plan on that right now is that all the software is open source. A bunch of stuff I've written, none of the server stuff have I put up there because I haven't had to, but I'll open source that as well. This stuff I've been working on doesn't even use the server that much. Most of the data is just stored in your local storage. And so it's a big JavaScript library. So theoretically, it's an environment where you could add a plugin of, he'll tell me this and he'll tell me that, and he's already doing ratings, and to get to know who the user is, I call a function. There'll be a bunch of libraries like that. Theoretically, you can add your stuff or build out of it. So, but that's always easier said than done, because you look at someone else's code, and even if there's stuff I'd already want to redo from how I've been doing things. And then even if I do it all right, when some other programmer looks at your stuff, they're kind of like, oh, it's easier for me to continue doing what I'm doing and use this library, right? On the other hand, I'll keep with it, and I know how to make stuff more and more easy until hopefully it gets to the point where, it's too easy to use to say
yeah, like I said, I'm comfortable. I like the idea of open source, but I don't think you can really make money on the software. It's more making money on what it does.
Or for me, it becomes a marketing thing, you see, because like even where I've worked the last 10 years, they're open sourcing that software. This is the first time I've left a place and I can use that software. So what it is it becomes like, I noticed it's more 20-somethings that are doing it, but there's a new kind of software career where you do all this free software and you only need a few people to go, that's awesome. And he did that for free because he knows how to do good software, and then you get a contract. And you work for 6 months or a year, or they want to hire you. You know what I mean? And you get it's a way to find your clients when you're Aspergery programmer and you don't really sell yourself. Well, the open source is out there, and the software sells you.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it doesn't. Yeah, I've just been unlucky in terms of the people. Like I said, I've done these little jobs.
Yeah, no, it's hard to hook up. Yeah.
And they always fuck up somehow. I do my job, and then somebody else doesn't do their job, and it's just.
Yeah, I've been through that too.
It's
and in the traditional model, I've known people, a lot of guys, including some that made it, got businesses started. But mostly what I know is good software engineers that got screwed over by a business guy over and over. It's really hard to find that side, and somebody that has that part of the vision, and that you're going to hire salesmen that are good, and why do you need salesmen, and then do the sales and take over.
They're going to look for somebody who's off the register. The only people looking for the cheaper guy or the innovative guy are usually the people who are already in trouble for some other reason.
Yeah.
The more desperate people.
That's true too.
And that's always your vulnerability. Is they're already in a desperate circumstance. They're going to you, and they're also throwing Hail Mary passes, and you're like, so you're sort of tying yourself to something that's already got a 40% chance of failure or whatever.
Well, my main thing that's likely right now, and I have a couple things, because there is a lot of work that people want kind of on contracts, so that looks like it's decent right now. But in terms of contacts and actually knowing, because people will pay for crappy software just because you can do it better, it doesn't really help. But is the science stuff that I'm working on. They don't really, I was working for an observatory, and they don't really want to make their own software anymore. They spend a tremendous amount of money doing it, and they don't manage software engineers really good. And there's no independent companies that help them make pipelines, which is what I was doing, data processing pipelines for them. And so they're supposed to want that, and then that would be a potentially, they just share the cost. You work for 4 or 5 observatories, and it's good that it's open source because they all benefit. And so they get a year's worth of work. It's just that some other observatory is paying you to do something.
It's just getting yourself in some door, because just think of all these governments, like I said, the government's really stupid. These school systems and the rest of it. And all you do is get lucky enough to get one of these stupid contracts, and you almost don't even have to show up to make your money because you're all so ignorant. They say, oh, you made the computer turn on? How did you do that?
And in science, it's just kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, they'll want, I don't know, it's weird. You'd think it was science and they'd be super proud of what they're doing, but sometimes they're too reserved, and they want the innovation to be on this firewall of another company, and to maybe make a decision to buy something, it seems less committal. But it's weird because if you build it ahead of time, of course, you can charge whatever you want for it.
Well, it just seems like there's so many rackets. They all hire these general contractors who subcontract all the work anyway. You know what I'm saying? And they pay these huge prices for something. It's like even a town here is still paying a company to do its website.
And sometimes they prefer that. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm in a situation where they realize they don't want to manage this kind of stuff, and they'd rather pay more but less committally. And in the end, they pay less.
I'm just saying, but they're paying they're paying for nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, if they're doing it year over year,
they're paying
they're getting ripped off.
They're paying $5 grand a year for $50 work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, or what I found out is like these guys that buy a small business a computer, their little server, and they need it. They're making $1 million. They need a database. Those guys charge $125 for a guy to order your machine from Dell and plug it together.
Yeah. All I'm saying is
they're getting ripped off.
There's all these places where you can make money, so you.
I don't want to make that kind of money.
I'd
rather make money
that's the part that's irritating.
selling.
Is that you have to sort of sell out to this bullshit because you're saying, gee, that would be, if you can get one job like that, it takes 10% of your work time. You know what I'm saying? Because it's such a fraudy kind of fake job. You know what I mean? You don't really have to work. So you have 90% of your work time to work on your projects. You know what I'm saying? And this one finances. And that's all you need is one of those stinking little cruddy, stupid jobs, that you don't feel good about, but, that's the way you have to play the game.
Well, I think there's a model that's separate from that, this open source model. Like with Red Hat, the Linux company, they decided that they stopped making totally free Linux, and then, in a way, and they make this version that's for servers, and it's really old. Like, I can't even develop on it because it wants old software, but it's known, and it's known to be solid. And I think they're making 14 billion, or I forget how many billion, and they sell software you can give to a friend still.
I know, but they're still winning the lottery.
Yeah, a little bit. But there's a lot of them now.
Well, I'm just saying, for every one of those, there's 500 who tried the Red Hat and failed.
But there's a lot of individual contractors that just make a funny little app, and then somebody comes to them and says, "Oh, I want you to do this for."
Well, isn't that what
and
I'm
that's
saying?
the dirty job version.
I'm just basically saying, though, it's still kind of a lottery system. You got to be in it to win it, kind of thing. So you have to be willing, to kind of capitalize on that.
Well, that's why I wonder too. Because I'm thinking of just focusing on the direct to the people thing. Because what also I was realizing is, so how long have we been using the internet? Well, I had ideas back in '92 that I thought were great, and it was like 10 years later they happened. And it was ahead of time because I was using these computers online from 13 to 23, and then 23 to 33. And now, 40, I think I'm 47, my wife said I was 46 though, so now I'm 46, let's say. And it's the third segment, and I actually think people are ready for some of these ideas. Because it was like what we've been discussing with the debate thing. There's like hundreds of thousands of people doing this activity, but a lot of them just for a couple of years, really. And maybe before that, they weren't arguing at parties philosophy either. They weren't doing the inward. They're truly just now getting their 10 years of experience with this kind of a medium. And so, selling yourself to people that need computer work because they think they have a way to make money, that is kind of a fallback. Why not just make a site or an extension that people want? Are they ready for these ideas? They were never ready before in '93.
Yeah,
they should be.
But
how long can I be
I
ahead?
guess I'm still feeling the burn. Just because when I got on the internet, I said, okay, this is a place where intelligent people are going to behave like intelligent people.
Oh, that was naive.
And that was really dumb of me. Because it's a rat hole. It turned into. And that wasn't my expectation, that the medium was going to become this shystery, you can make more money selling ads than you can selling, making an actual platform that works.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing that's, so I'm just saying, I would love to be able to just say, okay, I'll be gullible again, but there's a part of me that's saying, okay, you've been believing in this for years, and every time you look at it, it gets worse instead of better. The atmosphere gets harder, not easier.
But see, that's the thing, because I went for 10 years and I stopped developing for Windows, right? And there is a community that's more trustworthy still in the Linux community. And there's shysters in it, and there's young kids that turn out, that cause drama and all kinds of funny stuff. But it's definitely, there's room there for possibly to have some faith again, that people are wanting to build stuff that works together to do something, not just a way to shove more ads at you. Well, I'm not really ready to be naive either, but I do think there's a new golden age of this kind of, that stuff's new again.
Like I said, I'm just when you look at the face of it, you say, I would have never anticipated a Google, Facebook, Twitter. I would have never figured that's where the internet was going to go. Into all this.
I thought Twitter specifically. I thought, that's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's just gotten so tacky and superficial, and
but you see how the Facebook works,
thinner
right?
and thinner, you know, it's just getting more and more just like a really bad cable network.
I think the Facebook is an interesting example of the whole process, though, because it's like what happens is first there's the net, and you can what I think it's Finger or something where people would just have an info file in their home directory and you could see what it said, and that was kind of like a blog. But then people wanted web pages, so they'd edit the web page. You just open an editor on your machine and do the web page. And it just gets more and more abstract until, okay, now you have your photo album and your web page and stuff, and the Facebook and MySpace stuff, they bring that all together.
I know, but now you're not bringing anything together.
No, well now people, and with the power of Google and stuff, you've got people, like we were all in YouTube forced onto Google+. So now all the Facebook users that use YouTube are handling two of those. And I think that there's always a next step of some site that manages all of them for you. But I don't think it's going to be a website. I think it's going to be a JavaScript application running in your browser. That's what they said back in the 90s, how it was supposed to be from the beginning with Java. But they never did that until now. Now, why have a Facebook? Why don't you just have a program in your browser that does the Facebook and lets you have your photos at Flickr and your videos at Vimeo or YouTube or wherever, and people could still go to one site, but they're just opening a program that accesses your data and your videos are here, and it does all of the complicated part of making it look like one, face page or whatever you call it, And I'm pretty sure that's what Google's going for, because like the Google apps have become extensions. Pretty sure that's why they did Chrome. Remember when there was the browser wars? I think they're getting ready for there to be a kind of browser war where it's actually the applications in the browser compete for that space.
I mean, I think if I was a good enough programmer, I'd just take the source code for Mozilla and make my own browser that had all these tools built in.
Yeah.
And and I would really start modifying.
You almost don't need to, because with the JavaScript stuff, you basically have that
Mozilla
at your...
I guess I'd just make it something that could be controllable, not that other people could manipulate.
Right.
There's the downside to open source is that somebody takes your open source code and makes tower ads out of it and makes, uses it for malicious purposes.
Yeah.
So in some sense, you sometimes want to keep some code where people can't hack it, or can't use it because they're just going to use it for malicious purposes.
Well, it was easy to decide to go open source more. Well, I mean, I have officially been working on open source, but we're just now open sourcing it. But with the JavaScript stuff, because there's things to hype your JavaScript, but it's all pointless. People can get it. So why force people to hack it? Why not just say, look, I sent it to your browser. It's like a book. Now you can read it. The source code is what I actually sent you.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. I would maybe start messing with some software that's deeper, in the chain, so wouldn't be as easy to modify. Somebody has to go all the way to the browser code.
Well, I'm going to look at that. I have a bunch of open source stuff that I'm going to set up on my machine that I'm going to buy to have a build farm, including a couple open source games and just some fun things, because it's not that hard to once you get them building on your own machine, it starts to get easy to go in there and tinker with it. And if you break it, you go, okay, back that out. Because you use version control. That's probably the main thing. You probably never use. Have you ever used version control?
No, but I have used this, where you're using an independently loading.
Yeah.
So every time you load it, it's a new version. So it's
but can you get to the old versions?
No,
that's what version control. It just does the Wikipedia page history thing with your source code, and it's really useful for multiple people working on something at the same time, because if you fuck up, all you have to do is back out. You can check it in every day, so maybe you get a day's work, that's broken, and that's a big part of doing this stuff. But anyway, yeah. So well, hey, I have to say, when I came into your room on Saturday, usually I get in there and you guys are just talking about movies or something, and I feel like it's been an hour trying to take over and get a but you were like going through a project or something. It was pretty deep, but I didn't really pick up what it was. You were going through.
Oh, just the word game thing. Oh yeah, well,
you were going through
these
lists.
Yeah.
For what?
Well, just the idea of making an argument. You have to build these logical.
Oh, that's right. It was the Hypfilidae thing. You were going through your Hypfilidae reply.
I was going to sit there and say, okay.
You should do a lot of that. You help those people get smarter.
Yeah, I'll reconstruct this for you and put it in your own language.
So what is Hypfilidae saying? Because I haven't really watched videos.
No, we hasn't been saying much. I mean, Hypo Dave, you know how he is. You know, he's sort of.
I get along
he's so
fabulously
erratic.
with him now. We had a big falling out, but
He's
like
just hilarious.
years ago.
Like in the last 2 videos he's made, halfway through the videos he's completely changed his course, you know, and just like say, and so starts making the opposite video.
It's
Okay, well
interesting
maybe
to
you're
hear
right.
the Hypo Dave
I
videos
just
from you.
ragged on you for 5 minutes, and now I'll say, okay, well you're right about that, and you're right about this, and you're right about this, but you still suck. You know, it's just so funny because he just doesn't.
He's in the trusted network on the thing when I put it out.
Yeah, he just unravels his own arguments, but.
That would be funny too. We come out with something like this that has this trust network based thing where, you know, who rates stuff and what shows up in your suggested, you know, comes from a community that you start with. Because I'm sure there'll be, like the people that I would all involve, many of them hate each other and would be like, no, I object. Him? No, that's not who I meant when I said we have a community. But you also have this community that you could do it with of, you know, the anti-natalists and Forever Wolf Films and people that definitely there's a sub-community there that's independent.
Yeah, I mean there's somebody's listening. You know, I don't know how deep it goes, but there's people there. So
I kind of thinking my thing right now is people like I never did see Matt Fales. He didn't show up that day. I couldn't get a hold of him, so I never saw him in Hawaii. And then there's this guy I watch, Kurt Hardesty, or something like that is his name, and he's also being growing into a healer, like the spiritual, spectral dynamics kind of stuff. And I've had enough. I mean, I like both of those people a lot, but I've had enough of that. I'm thinking like almost like in the whole old school atheist thing where they went and looked for the young earth Christians to argue against, because I just think it's so counterproductive. Like he's pushing breatharianism, you know, the idea you can just eat off of and it's unspiritual to me, because I still have more than you, I guess, this idea that there is something to the spiritual feeling, and that feeling you have looking at the Grand Canyon stuff. It's like you should listen to it, and I feel it's really wasted when people are like, because I want to become Jonathan Livingston Seagull and teleport. Or Cashify used to do this. I'd argue with Cashify about, you know, he would show videos, links of YouTube of Hindu monks flying. You know, fake ones.
I think it's the same as the Feynman argument about, you know, you can look at a flower and appreciate it for being a flower.
Yeah.
And then you can find even more, you know, when you pull out a microscope and start looking at how it's built and what it's made of. And I think the same is true of our psychology. I think the much more interesting story is, why do we feel it? Why do we have these feelings? And you don't need a spiritual solution to that. You don't need a spiritual answer. You don't need a beautiful answer.
But some people do. That's what I think.
No, I don't think they do if they really think. You know, I'm just saying that I think there's more power in controlling. You know, not being the puppet anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, not being the bug, not being controlled by a DNA molecule, because that's all you're really doing when you're wallowing in that ego, because that's ego.
It's like over-romanticizing.
That's ego, right?
Attraction.
Okay, let's get true.
Yeah.
It's ego. Okay, you're becoming beautiful and part of something. And all this, I think there's something much more beautiful in being able to accept what you really are. You know, this reflexive.
But I would just put it this way: why can't you feel spiritual without wanting magic powers? That's the thing. The spiritual people would do a lot more better in this world. They're not the ones torturing and trying to become black ops.
Well, I know, but there's only 2 choices. Okay, I mean, it's either going to be the truth, which is not going to be. This isn't going to be a great answer. So you're going to have to deal with the negative of the harsh reality, which is going to be, this isn't a great answer. I'm not going to be able to get too lazy to hold the camera. You have to get a little tripod. But you're not gonna get the truth, and I think the word truth should mean something, you know, even no matter what it feels like. But I'm just saying that I think there's a real power in recognizing that I can control it, because I'll know what it really is. And if you keep making it magical, you'll never control it. You can't control magic.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, that's the thing. I was reading Jonathan Livingston Seagull again, and the first chapter is all about he's learning aerodynamics. And he's controlling his body, and his spiritual journey is entirely by learning physics. There's not magic in it. It's like, hey, I could pull him, and then they're shaped more like a falcon. I die faster and stuff. And you can control the universe more if you accept reality and physics instead of going. And then at one point, I got so good at skateboarding, I teleported somewhere.
Well, it's like Scientology, right? There's a lot of will to power in Scientology. Okay, it's really
Yeah,
about making
obviously.
yourself. If you feel like a doctor, you can be a doctor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
If you feel like you're incompetent, you're not going to be able to do it. So it's that idea that sometimes competence is your best friend, because it'll enable you to do what you need to do instead of worrying about doing what you have to do. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a way of channeling your energy, so to speak. Right? Tremendous value in that, in terms of getting control of your psychology and understanding when you need to be confident and when you need to be careful.
Yeah.
Okay? And what do you need the volcano for? What do you need the fucking aliens for? You know, what do you need the bullshit, you know, tied onto that? And it was only contrived for the purpose of getting the tax-free status, right? So here you have this guy, like, L. Ron Hubbard's an asshole, but obviously he had some insight into human psychology. And so take the value of that, you know, this mind over matter kind of thing, this mind over lizard, or however you want to describe it. And take the value of that and just get rid of the rubbish. Get rid of this volcano and aliens and bullshit.
Yeah. Well, he didn't think people would buy that, evidently.
Well, I don't think it's just about buying it. I think the idea was, is like I said, he wanted a tax write-off.
But he didn't really believe this stuff. He was just a science fiction guy, it seems like.
Well, I'm just saying, but that my point.
But he believed in the system.
My point is we know it's a contrivance.
It's like a metaphor.
We know that's the junk, and I'm just saying, whether Hubbard put it there for a tax write-off or he put it there for some, or make it popular, or whatever his excuse for putting it on there, I'm just saying, just separate the two things. Separate the value from the crap.
Well, I think one of the values of Scientology is just that they have this idea that you have ideas in your head that you're battling. You know, there's this excuse of these aliens have come, and so when you have these crazy or self-critical or whatever kinds of ideas that are contradicting, it's a way to interpret that as someone else. And, you know, it's kind of like when the crazy person's dog tells him to kill people, Son of Sam. You know, maybe he could have thought, that's an alien in my head. Maybe he wouldn't have, he'd still be batshit crazy, but he wouldn't have killed anybody.
The point is just don't take it literally.
But that's what it all is. It's about attacking those things and getting them out of your acting career.
Right. well, whatever. You break it down.
That's why it works with actors, I think, because those are the kinds of things that come right in the middle of a scene and make you a bad actor. And by learning how to karate chop ninja those out of your mind, you also could become kind of vacant-brained, like, you know, some of them are. But you actually will act at your peak because you won't have that clutter when you're trying to focus on some goal.
Well, especially in acting, just because you're supposed to, you know, you have to play a psychological game with yourself. So that's what it's about, is psychology. So I'm just saying that there's tools, and just use the tools, take them for what their value is, and quit. You know, I just wish people wouldn't keep demanding that it have some golden goose at the end, or there be some happily ever after, or some other bullshit that makes this mean something to them. The value should be in the tools. And that should be enough, you know.
Well, that's what I think. And I kind of am thinking of changing my attitude, because I've had an attitude for a long time now with the internet that you can't really change people and stuff. And so it's like, okay, I'll just get what I can get information. I'll try to take the good out of Scientology or whatever weird thing. And it's pretty expansive. There's a lot of stuff things that are even abhorrent that you can do that with. And I'm thinking of turning more towards like, well, no, how do you educate people? And I go back to the idea I've had the whole time, which is, how can this help if I'm being self-indulgent like that? And it's not working per se, but the idea was, people really need to learn how to think, you know, and emotionally as well. Even if thinking emotionally means, you know, rising above and not letting it worry you. Same thing. You have to add your emotions up, and then you're going to add up intellectual emotions like curiosity and eureka, and I discovered something, and I solved this puzzle, and the desire to solve a puzzle. You have to teach people how to think better. And I don't feel like I think better in one sense, but in another sense I think I do. I don't think I get to better conclusions, but I think I go on a path that's more logical.
Right.
And I know when I'm in a wrong conclusion how I got there.
More logical is part of the concept, though. The only way you do that, though, is you first have to understand how your brain works, because your brain doesn't work logically. Yeah. You know what I mean? Your intuition is not logical.
Yeah.
Okay. Your first impression is not logical. So you have to recognize that you have this bullshit, and that you have to. That's why you need to get to the base of it, the root of it, and understand. Okay, I have this ego. I have this other stuff that's created an agenda, culture that's, you know, I have been brainwashed by my culture. I have been brainwashed by certain notions of comfort.
All the metaphors.
Right. And so you understand the psychology of the machine first, then you can start cleaning it of the bullshit, because so much of what we do is always trying to make we're making the world, the reality, fit the round hole we have in our head, and we're just saying, no, I don't accept square pegs, you got to make it round, and that's the bullshit part. You know?
So the funny thing though is this is almost like in the self-help area, which goes into the you know, the people that want to be these spiritual teachers and breatharianism, where there's some spiritual dynamics or whatever, a self-help thing, or maybe it's yoga or the New Christ Church that does rock and roll. I mean, it's like this self-help industry, which is like the last thing that I don't have a desire to be big in the Tony Robbins, you know, and yet it's almost like there's a reason people are asking for that, because they do need the answer. I don't think that industry does very well. The people that are really into it, they're all over the map. For one thing, even if one of those books is great, they have 7 others that are just making, you know, every crayon scribbled over each other.
The bad gilding of the lily is how, you know, I don't know how to put it, but it's you know, yeah, they're just putting crap on top of something and weighting it down so much it's lost all its value. You know what I mean? So much glitter and bullshit that's tied to those philosophies. That again, they've missed the value.
People want to be told their lives gets better when they do it.
But you know, the value is in understanding, you know, this how your brain works. You know, the deconstruction.
Yes.
You know, and getting to this whole determinism
But
thing.
people want to know they're going to get rich, like The Secret from it.
Program thing. Well, I know, but that's the part that once you've dissected your brain and realize your brain is just this robotic machine that's running, then it's going to be impossible for you to start worrying about who's winning the lottery. You know, then you're automatically going to understand that.
But what are you going to do? Lie to them?
Your brain is doing the same thing my brain is. No, you don't have to. I'm just saying the ego gets killed as soon as.
But it's like, do this and you'll get rich, and then when you do it, you don't care anymore.
But you only care about getting rich because of your ego, because you're an individual. All right, I'm just saying. As soon as you understand, as soon as you start understanding that your brain is like feet. I mean, making a distinction between my feet and your feet would be idiotic, right? Because there's nothing special about feet. A foot is a foot is a foot. Well, a brain is a brain is a brain is a brain. So then you understand that it really doesn't matter whether you're happy or I'm happy. It doesn't matter whether you win the lottery, I win the lottery. You understand that simple concept. Then you break down all that. What do I expect from this? What do I demand from this philosophy? And all you demand from it is the truth.
See, here's the thing we argue about with Nietzsche. Which is, see, Nietzsche was saying that what if, see, here's the thing, let's say we know a way people could find more of the truth, okay, and the problem is, the people want to be told that that'll make their life better, and what if knowing the truth makes their life unbearable, right, which kind of comes to your analysis in antinatalism. You analyze human life, I blame humans and kind of stop there, but I see why you go into how, you know, brutal nature is, and that's, you know, and so you analyze and find this truth, and it doesn't make life easier necessarily, and yet I still want people to go through those processes, and I think it will make our culture better if people went through that process, but they want to hear that God's going to, you know, grant their secret.
I think they were still arguing too from a point of view that somehow you needed the special knowledge, you need to be one of them, one of we, you know, he always did this we stuff. You know, to be, and so he was talking about what's good for them.
You mean L. Ron Hubbard again?
I mean Nietzsche.
Oh, Nietzsche, okay.
There was a standard for the people, and there was a standard for the elite. Okay, we, the philosophers, can have this conversation, but the regular, you know, human class can't.
Yeah, well, there might be some bad elitism in there, but
you got the same thing Kant did, and the rest of these people, is they all talked as if, oh, human civilization will come to an end if we talk about the truth, because humans can't take the truth. So they were basically doing the you can't handle the truth argument in the sense that humans need these guideposts.
Well, I would dislike Nietzsche if I agreed with that.
Spelled right out. They need big signs with big letters and bold type. They can't do the smart stuff like us. They can't read the text. And I'm saying, no, that's the bullshit part here. Everybody can understand politics. Everybody can understand the law. Everybody can understand all this shit. It's just that we have forced a contrived hierarchy. Doctors talk Latin for a reason, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, all these
But I don't think Nietzsche's that kind of elitist, because one, he felt elitist, he exercised his elitism over the other philosophers, and he didn't say they couldn't answer the problems. Often he would praise them in this and that he thought they had right in their style or whatever. He usually said they had a problem because there was some emotional thing, like you know, kind of
But
Freudian. Freud stole from him, like, he's only believing in this politics because his mom beat him, kind of shit.
He still talked about society as if it was a colony of ants.
Yeah, he didn't like for it. And democracy,
and
he hated
was
it.
Something else, okay?
But
he thought of himself as a praying mantis, and the human race was ants, okay? He thought he was something special.
No, I think he thought he had gone to the side, but here's the thing that I've struggled with him is that, you know, he was against democracy. He didn't think democracy would work. But he thought kings were corrupt too. I mean, there's a big pessimism there. He's not, I don't remember anything he said would work. But what do you think about that? Because
he was against everything.
Right.
Okay?
He was a big crit. Right. No, he did take the curmudgeonly side.
He built nothing. Okay.
Well, I disagree with that.
The only thing he validated was evolution. He didn't validate.
But what about this question? Just take this question as a topic. Democracy. I mean, because I'm very pro-democratic, but now I'm getting older, and I'm starting to see why it kind of depends how that democracy is formed, and it's still an open question of whether one can be formed well.
If I had a choice between I get to choose the dictator, okay, and democracy, I will go with let me choose the dictator.
Well, what if it can't be you though?
Well, I'm just saying that's how I'm looking at it personally. I'm saying I'd rather have the benevolent dictator than the democracy.
But there's no way to choose one.
Well, I know. Well, I'm just saying.
They get corrupt.
I'm not. No. Einstein's not getting corrupt.
He would.
No, he wouldn't.
Well,
I can trust. I think I can trust Einstein as much as I can trust me. I'm pretty damn sure of that. Okay. And just from reading Einstein.
Well, but Einstein was a pacifist, but ended up not being a pacifist because he realized you got to do something about the Nazis.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's room for a big mistake if he's the world dictator for a few years. Maybe we'd have Nazis in power.
But we know the process. Okay. We know Einstein's not going to do anything except do it carefully.
Well, he's a good example.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, but he's not an example of a failure, is all I'm saying. And he's an example of somebody who's going to look for the right answer based on some sort of bigger picture than what does Einstein think.
Okay? For sure, and that's how come he was a pacifist and why he was big enough to not be one afterwards.
Well, I'm just saying that's why I would trust Einstein over democracy. If I had to choose between the two, I'd say I'd go with Einstein before I go with a democracy, because a democracy is automatic dilution, right? You're automatically diluting the judgment with the idiots.
But the only way we've ever really done that organically is the guy with the big army put himself in place.
Well, I'm just saying, quite obviously.
So what's the system?
I'm just saying, obviously, I can't have it the way I would want it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if I had the God power and I could just choose the Einstein, I'd rather choose the Einstein. Obviously, we have to go with democracy because there's no other rational choice.
Yeah.
There's no other rational choice in a world where some asshole is going to pick the dictator. Well, in that world, there's no other choice but to go with democracy.
Right. I agree with that, and I also agree with it in the sense that because there's really infinite forms of democracy. Like if we had an IRV-based democracy and that's the only difference, this country would be different. So there's a lot of forms of ways of setting up the game. We're saying it should be a board game where everybody starts equal. So there's still a lot of board games.
And just put a couple of test questions on the ballot, you know, and you've already improved your democracy.
That's the other thing. So that's the other thing. I used to be totally against having any test questions, and things like taking the vote from felons I'm against. But I am getting a lot closer to why not? Why people that want to come and be in this country have to take a little quiz? Why not take a quiz to be on a jury?
There's no reason to presume a bigotry, you know what I mean? There's no reason to presume a bigotry in the fact that you're going to filter people for a minimum amount of competence. I mean, come on, being a citizen is a huge responsibility. If you believe in, you know, angels and reptilians, well, maybe you shouldn't be deciding our defense budget.
See, I could see something like this, like kids start voting local before they get to even take part in national elections. Maybe there's a 10-year graduated schedule, and to go to the next level, you have to have voted in your county, and then your state, and then your so on, and learn something about, because it's too easy.
Even if you only gave them a percentage vote as a collective, you know, even if they were only 10% of the vote as a collective, you know what I'm saying, in the whole election, it would still be valuable. Like you give 12th graders, you know, this much weight to their vote. You know, sophomores.
That'd be cool because you could go down to 10-year-olds that way. You could go down to just 0% or 0.001, but they got their say. And you'd also know what was coming in 10 years.
Right, and their opinion would be voiced. It would be known instead of being unknown.
Part of what I have up against national and even international politics is that it's such a celebrity thing. And with the blogging, and I was doing the blogging a lot for years when it got big, you know, it's all about this celebrity, and so it's so easy to not really make a decision and think you're politically informed. And I used to see the judgment between if people knew any international or what was going on internationally, but then I realized, holy fuck, I know way too much about all of these failed Ron Paul types or Jerry Brown people I've liked and stuff than I did about who has been the mayor of my town spending $300 million a year the last 10 years. And so I could see that as a way to have a farm system, but I also could see a lot more competency tests. I mean, I think totally judgment-free democracy is maybe just a good first experiment. And after that, we're going to have judgment.
I think once you franchise people, okay, once you give people the realization they're going to have a definite congressman, and it's going to be somebody they voted for.
The geographic part.
Well, I'm just saying, they voted for this guy.
Yeah.
Okay, he's going to know their name.
Yeah.
Okay, your name is going to be on his list in Congress. Okay, this is your guy. Okay, it's not some guy you didn't want to get elected.
Right, they have
some guy you
constituencies.
actually voted for.
Right, they still have a constituency.
I think you bring back 25% of the voters, okay, and people will be interested.
Yeah.
If they know there's not a feudal system, they'll be interested.
Yeah.
And
well, for one, because they could follow it.
This is a feudal system, right? I mean, you don't have a choice in these elections. You got shit for choice, and that's the truth. You got shit or crap. And in a system where you got to choose between shit and crap, I mean, if you're just choosing whether you got Hitler or Mussolini coming at you, who wants to be in that game?
Yeah, no, it makes perfect
Okay,
sense to
so
say, like the Carlin thing of I can't
once you
vote.
make this stuff mean something, where you know you're actually changing who's in Congress, you know, once people have that power, then they're going to want to know more.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to figure out how to, I mean, because we've been through it with the IRV thing, and it's very hard to try to communicate that to people and why it's interesting and worth signing petitions or
well, it is,
so
but I'm gonna, like I said, I just made 2 videos on it, so I'm gonna start making this a weekly thing. You know,
you are gonna do that again?
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, because it's bullshit. This is we gotta fix this thing, and there's too many people.
What time is it?
It's really late. It's like tomorrow. It's 7:30.
Oh, good. My wife was like,
6:30.
Oh, it's only 6:30. Okay. So I should go get I'm gonna go get my phone, which I can film with too.
Yeah.
But we have to get a picture of you and me together on my phone. I'm not going yet.
Okay.
I'm just going out to my car.
Here, I got a flashlight. Yeah, it's amusing, all right.
So are the cameras all on? Are we going to be on the whole time? How am I going to tell you about the secret plot?
Yeah, I'll see if this video loads. That'll be interesting. See if it actually works, a 2-hour video. See if YouTube blows up or something.
A big part of what I've been through is, and again, it's the getting older thing. I've done a lot, and I think this is true in the